Hello, my name is Vanessa Recco, and today I will be talking about the comprehension strategy of summarizing. I want you to close your eyes and think of your hometown. What key features stick out in your mind? For example, what does it look like? What do you do for fun in your town? Who do you know? How long have you lived there? Why do you feel as though these features are significant in the mental picture that you have painted in your mind of your town? Today we are going to read a poem called My Town, which is a poem excerpt from the book My Places by Dina Anastasio. The purpose of reading this poem is to inform the readers that a poem using the comprehension strategy known as summarizing. This is describing the construction of the author's message by identifying essential elements of the author's message. This is necessary because summarizing is an essential component in everyday reading. The author of the poem is Dina Anastasio. The author's craft for this poem was to use a narrative element such as the topic of setting. The way she uses setting is by thoroughly describing a town. A reader could infer this as a flashback of the author's childhood town, where she lived growing up. I will be modeling the use of effective summarizing strategies that help me understand the author's message and craft. If I find a section in the poem that I do not understand, I will self-monitor by rereading the lines again. This will help me to better understand what the author is trying to describe, so I am able to summarize what I have read. I will be modeling my thoughts out loud to show you how to effectively read a poem using several comprehension strategies. However, the main strategy I will be focusing on is summarizing the text. I will begin this lesson by reading the whole poem through without stopping. As I am reading, notice that I am reading fluently. My town's in between, not too big, not too small. The main street has stones and one building that's tall. There's a school where I go and another nearby. My sister goes there. When I'm big, so will I. It's one of those towns with all kinds of places. We have mansions and farms and shacks and green spaces. But what makes it special are the people I meet when I'm skating and skipping or crossing the street. The butcher, the teacher, the mayor's new wife. I know everyone. I've lived here all my life. Now I will model what you should do by going back through and rereading the poem, stopping at the end of each stanza, summarizing the main idea each stanza is portraying. There will be a total of 5 stanzas. Also, if I find a word or phrase that does not make sense, I will stop and reread what I do not understand, or keep reading further into the poem, looking for context clues that will help me understand the section better. I will now read the first stanza. My town's in between. I wonder what the author means by in between. Let me read more to find out. Not too big, not too small. Oh, okay, that makes sense. The town is of medium size because it's not too big and not too small. The main street has stones. Wow, a street made of stones? Today our streets are paved with black tar. I have a hunch that this town is not a current town like the ones we see today. And one building that's tall. I am now able to visualize what the town looks like. Since I have reached the end of this first stanza, I will stop here and summarize what I have read so far. The first stanza describes what the town looks like. I was able to get a mental picture of the size of the town, what the streets look like, and the structure of the buildings. Now let me read the second stanza to find out more about the town. There's a school where I go. Wow, that sentence was really difficult to understand, but I can infer that the narrator goes to a school, and another nearby. I now know that there are 2 schools in the town. I wonder why the narrator is at one school as opposed to the other. My sister goes there. I am a little confused by this statement. Let me keep reading to find out more information that can help me complete the thought by using the context clues. When I am big, so will I. Here I can gather that the sister is older. Therefore, the school that she goes to is for older children. We have reached the end of another stanza. I will now summarize what I have just read in the second stanza. The second stanza describes 2 schools in the town for different age students. The narrator's sister goes to the school for older children, while the narrator goes to the school for younger children. This can be inferred as primary and secondary schools. I will continue reading the poem by moving on to the third stanza. It's one of those towns. What does the author mean by it's one of those towns? I should keep reading to find out. With all kinds of places. What kinds of places is the narrator referring to? We have mansions and farms. I see that these must be 2 of the places the narrator is referring to. And shacks and green spaces. A shack? What does that mean? It sounds like the word snack. However, I am still confused what the author's point is for this section. Let me reread the stanza fluently to try to better comprehend the main idea of the stanza. It's one of those towns with all kinds of places. We have mansions and farms and snacks and green places. I now have a better understanding of what the author is stating. However, the word substitution snack does not fit. I will now place shack back into the poem and then reread the stanza. It's one of those towns with all kinds of places. We have mansions and farms and shacks and green spaces. Now to summarize this stanza, I will relate green spaces to green plants that grow, which could be located on a farm. Since the poem mentioned a mansion, I will predict that a shack is also a type of building or home. But I will continue to read the poem to find context clues that will support my prediction. Let me pick up where I left off by reading the fourth stanza. But what makes it special? I wonder what the word "it" is referring to. I will keep reading to find context clues that will support my answer. Are the people I meet? I am assuming the narrator is meeting new people. I wonder how the narrator is meeting these new people. When I'm skating and skipping. Oh, that makes sense. The narrator must be exploring his or her town by venturing through it, or crossing the street. Here's another way the narrator is meeting people. I have reached the end of another stanza. Let me summarize what I have read. I can now see the word "it" is referring to the town. To summarize the stanza, I learned that the narrator thinks the town is special because he or she meets new people while he or she travels through the town. I have one more stanza to go. Let me continue reading to gain complete comprehension of the poem. The butcher, the teacher. Okay, these must be people from the town. The mayor's new wife. I now know that the town has a mayor and that the mayor has a wife. These are two people that the narrator meets in his or her travels throughout the town. I know everyone. Okay, I can infer that the narrator must explore his or her town often and meet new people throughout his or her adventures. I've lived here all my life. I now know that the narrator was born and raised in the same town. I have finished reading the poem. I will summarize the final stanza. Stanza 5 informed me that the narrator knows everyone in his or her town because he or she lived there his or her whole life. Even though I have completed this poem, I was not able to find the context clues that support my prediction of what a shack is. Therefore, I will need to look up the word in the dictionary to fully gain comprehension of the word. According to the dictionary, the word shack means a small, rough cabin. I will now reread the stanza 3, where the word is located, and substitute the word with its definition. It's one of those towns with all kinds of places. We have mansions and farms and small, rough cabins and green spaces. This makes a lot more sense to me because it is saying that the town has big homes, small homes, and farms, which can infer that people in the town are very diverse. Diverse means different, because the buildings they live in. Now that I have found the definition and understand the meaning of that stanza, I will reread the whole poem fluently to gain comprehension of the poem. My town's in between, not too big, not too small. The main street has stones and one building that's tall. There's a school where I go and another nearby. My sister goes there. When I'm big, so will I. It's one of those towns with all kinds of places. We have mansions and farms and shacks and green spaces. But what makes it special are the people I meet when I'm skating and skipping or crossing the street. The butcher, the teacher, the mayor's new wife. I know everyone. I've lived here all my life. Now that I am done rereading the whole poem, I will summarize the whole poem to understand the author's message. To summarize the poem was about a town the narrator lived in his or her whole life. The author is able to visually paint a picture of the town by first describing what the town looks like, that the children go to school, the different buildings the people lived in, and who the narrator meets and knows throughout the town. I can further infer that the author may be describing a flashback of of the town that she lived in as a child. I am able to connect it by visualizing the town in which I live. In conclusion, I was clearly able to see the author's craft of setting throughout the poem where she describes the town. This video was talking about summarizing, and this is the end of my video.